rowdywrestling.net.
There's a rowdy crowd today.
Hey now, everybody. Welcome to the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast right here on rowdywrestling.net. I'm Tony Stabile, back for episode number 2 of the week, as I wasn't planning on doing a second one, but when GFW announced that their media teleconference call this week would be Johnny Impact, and the fact that, there's, his connection to AAA, so naturally the Sexy Star incident does get talked about, and just other fun things, and he's always been a very interesting personality to me. I figured, hey, why the heck not? Let's get that. Let's put it on the show for you guys to listen. And it's actually a really, really fun time. They do touch on some of the big news, the non-stop situation around Impact Wrestling, GFW, TNA. Yesterday, GFW announced on their social media and on their website that effective, quote-unquote, immediately, Jeff Jarrett would be taking a leave of absence, indefinite leave of absence from the company, from his position as head of creative. And a lot of people assumed that was out of the blue, as just that morning earlier, Jeff Jarrett had tweeted, oh, it's going to be a beautiful day, love Impact Wrestling, GFW and all that. And then that gets announced. Then, GFW went out of their way to just put out an official statement and all of that, which Ross Foreman, the guy who handles these media calls, decided to read at the beginning of the conference call and went out of his way to say they will not be fielding any questions about the subject at all. So I think it's still one of those sore subjects. I mean, a lot of the dirt sheets, a lot of the news sites are reporting that GFW and Impact Wrestling with Anthem haven't completely merged yet. So apparently Jarrett owns the GFW name, but, if something were to happen, he could just pull that out and they would have to go back just to being Impact Wrestling, which at this point, whatever the name is, it doesn't matter to me, and I don't think it matters to a lot of people. But what it comes down to is also there have been reports that the company is hemorrhaging a lot of money. So Impact Wrestling itself, from Fight Network, Anthem, its parent companies, they're sitting there like, this might not have been the best situation because there's a lot of financial and a lot of legal situations that the company's tied in. That is something we do know definitively. What we don't know definitively is the actual internal workings right now, where the company's headed, what are they thinking about. So that's something very, very interesting. And, the people involved with TNA going from today all the way back to 2002 have been the kings and queens of deflection and being like, no, everything's totally fine, while they're there trying to, bail out water from the boat. So we'll see what's going on with that. I'm, optimistic, but it's one of those situations where, hey, if they decide to jump out, I mean, they've acquired Fight Network specifically, so Anthem have acquired the rights in Canada to air Smash Wrestling. They have ROH. I mean, there's no shortage of professional wrestling. They have New Japan. There's really no shortage of pro wrestling that Fight Network and Anthem can show on their television stations, with or without GFW, Impact Wrestling, TNA, Total Nonstop, NWA, whatever you want to call it. So we'll see what happens there. Now, it's a very fun podcast. It's a very fun listen as Johnny Impact, the former Johnny Mundo, or John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, whatever you want to call him, goes into talking about joining GFW, his movies that he's produced, the difference between acting and wrestling, lineage, the Sexy Star incident, which I mentioned earlier. So it's very much a fun listen. But we got to handle some business, guys. We got to handle the people who take care of you and take care of this show. I'm talking heelsandfaces.com, a clothing and lifestyle brand based out of Montreal, bringing together contemporary streetwear, fashion, and pro wrestling culture, meaning they make you, as a pro wrestling fan, look too sweet in some black and white threads. So go check them out, heelsandfaces.com. Also, because they love the show, they love you, and they love the fact that people support them and they support the show, at checkout, all you got to do is put in a promo code of ROWDY. The promo code is ROWDY at checkout, and you save 10% off your total purchase order. Isn't that amazing? That's a great way to support the show. But another way you want to support the show is, do the usual, like on Facebook, follow on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube and iTunes, leave comments and ratings anywhere you can. I hope they're always positive. And also a great way is, just share the podcast. Somebody's a pro wrestling fan, somebody's a Quebec pro wrestling fan. let them know about the podcast. Check it out. Shout it out. There's three levels of advertising. There's liminal, subliminal, and superliminal. Let's hit some superliminal advertising right out there. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time, guys. We're going to head right into the conference call with Johnny Impact.
Hi, this is Matt Fish, inviting you to check out my brand new show, the Hip Hop Classics Podcast. Each week, we're going to take a deep dive into one of the greatest records the genre has ever produced and talk about why it's so significant to the music as well as the culture. From East Coast to West Coast, G-Funk to hardcore, and everything in between, we're going to cover it all. So join me, won't you? Subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and YouTube. It's the Hip Hop Classics Podcast, the new music show that you don't want to miss.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ross Foreman with GFW. I'd like to welcome you to this week's media teleconference. Before we welcome our special guest, I do have an update for you. As many of you do know, yesterday on our website we posted a statement, and I'd like to read it for you if you didn't have a chance to see that. Effective immediately, Jeff Jarrett is taking an indefinite leave of absence from his position as Chief Creative Officer to focus on personal matters. Jeff will be available on a consultative basis as needed. That is our statement. That is our only statement. During this teleconference, myself and Johnny Impact will not be taking any questions whatsoever on the topic and or Jeff Jarrett. So we ask you to please respect the wishes and, of course, please respect Jeff Jarrett's privacy. That said, it's a pleasure to welcome one of the newcomers to GFW, I can't even call him a three-time champion in AAA, but rather a three-belt holder, the electrifying Johnny Impact. Welcome to the weekly teleconference, Johnny.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here. This is my first weekly teleconference, as you probably gathered. Not even really sure how this works, but I'd like to say I'm really happy with my experience so far at Impact. Been blown away by the level of professionalism in the locker room, and I'm really happy to work with some of my old friends like Bobby Lashley and Chris Masters and EC3, and then and also some of the newer talent. I mean, I guess Loki and Eddie Edwards aren't new talent, but they're new friends of mine. Eddie Kingston, LAX, Conan, and me go way back. I can talk about the whole roster at length, but I'll just cut it there and then move on to say that thoughts and prayers go out to anyone that's been affected by Hurricane Harvey. I know I've got some family that has been, and it's such a large number of people that have been affected that I feel like just about somebody that's being affected right now, and that sucks.
Johnny, if we can ask you to expand on that briefly, because I know you and I talked. You do have family down in Houston.
Yeah, I've quite a number of cousins in Houston, and a couple of their houses were not flooded, but water just went up right up to their doorstep, and which is nice because in lieu of the house being flooded, one of my cousins that has kids said her kids loved it actually. They don't understand that the water is damaging like all the real estate and the flooring and creating a huge mess, because to them it just seems kind of fun. But I think that's going to wear off because basically like the widespread disorganization that's going to follow and the amount of cleanup that is required. I was talking to another buddy of mine, Jason David Frank, who lives in Houston, who's also got a ton of people down there that have been affected. We were supposed to do a show together, actually in Nashville, Ross, the other week, and he ended up having to pull out last minute because the hurricane had hit. But stuff like that just it sucks because it seems like it's out of your control and there's nothing really you can do about it. But it helps people in your life that have been affected by it.
Alrighty, well, of course, we send our thoughts and prayers from GFW to everybody in the Houston area who's been impacted, and certainly say prayers for everybody potentially impacted by Hurricane Irma as she bears through the Atlantic at this point.
Yeah. One of the most exciting things to me about going to a new promotion like GFW is exactly what this question is about. There's a ton of people on the roster that I've never had the chance to wrestle. So you got guys, X-Division guys like Trevor Lee and Desmond Xavier, both of whom I think are super talented that I've never had the opportunity to work. as Johnny Impact, that I think we could tear down the Impact Zone together. Then there's a guy like Bobby Lashley that man, him and I were real close when he came to OVW back in 2004, and we even rode together when I first started on the road. He started at the same time, but we haven't worked for the same company in over 10 years now, and he's grown as a performer and developed his own specific style, and I feel the same about myself, and it'd be really interesting to me to see how we match up now. Then clearly the current champion, Eli Drake, I think has been underrated for a long time. Certainly not in his mind. he thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread, but in the eyes of the wrestling community, I think he's been underrated, and I would love the chance to have a true one-on-one matchup to put my skills to the test against him in the ring. How about you, James? James, can you talk back right now, or are you muted?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I muted myself for safety.
Oh, no worries. Is there anyone?
What was the question?
Is there anyone on the roster that you think that you'd like to see me wrestle?
You've pretty much been exactly who I thought you would want to face, and I'm pretty excited to see what you do in Impact, because it's a pretty big change, and it's going to be interesting to see what you do in there.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like my style from Lucha Underground and AAA, and independent wrestling is a little bit faster paced than some of the current roster. And that to me, like, anytime you have a difference of styles and a difference of attitudes, that to me usually creates the most interesting matchups.
Hello, this is Riju from Sportskida from India, long-time fan of yours. My question is, how was it working? How was it working in the television show called Glow? How did the whole role come about? And for non-wrestlers, how were the girls?
How were the girls in Glow? The girls,
yes.
The girls in Glow were amazing. I'll start there. Like, they are all very hardworking and beautiful, obviously, but I think what really made that show work was the camaraderie between the girls on the cast. They had a really fun and tight relationship between themselves, and they were also, because they're so secure of themselves and their abilities, welcoming to outsiders like me. And I was the guest star on the first episode, played Salty the Sack Johnson, which is one of my favorite wrestling names ever. And I really felt welcomed by certainly all the cast members, the girls, and also by Mark Maron. Mark Maron's one of the funniest dudes ever, and Carly, Liz, Genji, all the writers, creators, and EPs in the show really made that a positive environment. And I think that's the secret to a show's success, is the positivity. And the thing that I noticed about the GFW locker room in its current iteration, everyone feels like they know what they're there for. They feel like they have something to offer, and I didn't feel any negativity when I walked into the Impact Zone. I just felt like I was coming to like a high school reunion party. Like, I was hanging out with a bunch of my old friends, and everyone's excited at the idea of what we're about to create.
Hi, Johnny. It's James from Wrestling Epicenter Interactive Wrestling Radio. Last time I spoke to you, we were talking about Lucha Underground, and I got to tell you, when you came out on Impact, he's now 8-year-old went nuts. But after the show, he kind of said to me, "But what does that mean for Lucha Underground?" I had no idea how to answer it, so I thought this might be the perfect option to ask you, what does this mean for the future of Lucha Underground?
Well, I think one of the most exciting things happening right now in wrestling is this partnership between GFW and AAA and Noah. And because of this partnership, there's going to be a lot of talent exchanges. Eddie Edwards, for example, just won the Noah title. We've got Hijo de Fantasma, Tejano, and Pagano from AAA. We've got Garza and LAX from Conan's promotion, The Crash. And all these four major companies now are working together. And to me, it's really interesting. It's like the sum of all these parts is greater than any one of these promotions by itself. So as far as what's happening with Lucha Underground in general, and me working with Lucha Underground is planning on doing a season 4. I'm planning on continuing my relationship with Lucha Underground into season 4. The specific dates for the start of the tapings have not yet been released. And I'm hoping they're ASAP because I can't wait to get back to the temple. But in the meantime, that's what's so cool about GFW is the opportunity to have all these new matchups and potentially have some crossover now with GFW and Lucha Underground. Fingers crossed for that in the future.
Hello there, it's Francis from In Pop. The main question I want to ask you is at the moment you've wrestled internationally with GFW because you've got a working relationship with AAA, Noah, The Crash, etc. Will we see you on this side of the pond, like in Britain or Ireland or anywhere like that anytime soon?
I've got a couple of things that I've been talking about. A buddy of mine recently took over IPW and is talking about having me and Joey Mercury come out and do a tag match in December. I'm still champion of 5-Star Wrestling. I know they've announced a bunch of dates in 2018, or if they haven't announced them, they're planning on it and haven't gotten around to it yet. But specifically when and for what promotion, I don't know. But I love working in the UK, and I'm planning to get back there sometime.
Mr. Impact, thank you so much for, I like that name, Mr. Impact. Thank you so much for having me on. This is Big Ray for OneWrestling.com. How are you today, sir?
Doing great. I like being referred to as Mr. Impact. Just sounds funny and formal.
It does. It kind of goes. My question is a little bit of a serious question. All right, well, you did work over, again, Lucha Underground with the young lady, Sexy Star. And from what I know and from what I've heard, you have a pretty good reputation as a pretty good dude in the industry. Now, with all that being said, what are your honest feelings regarding what happened between Rosemary and Sexy Star over at not AAA, but Lucha Underground? And how was it working with Sexy Star? Did you find her at all to be dangerous?
First of all, the incident you're referring to, I believe, was at Triplemania. It was for AAA, just on August 26th, between Sexy Star and Rosemary. During the match, I feel like there was friction between Sexy Star and the other girls, not necessarily Rosemary, but actually not her at all. That was Rosemary's first time to Mexico. The other women in the match and Sexy Star looked like they had some issues that they decided to resolve during the match, which is unprofessional in my opinion. And the match suffered because of it, and tensions ran high. And in my opinion, because she was in a heightened state of aggravation or whatever it was, I felt like she took that out on Rosemary for no reason.
Hey, Johnny, this is Sam Pierce from Fight Network Toronto. You've been really successful in the wrestling, film, and television industry. How do you balance them to ensure that you're always performing at your best?
Between wrestling and film?
Yeah, and television as well.
Well, I'm sitting in my car right now in rush hour traffic on the way, for one. For two, it's not easy. It's just about a lot of time management and prioritization. So entertainment in general, to me, boils down to making people feel something. And whether it's TV or film or pro wrestling, the people watch to feel something, to feel an emotion. So in any of those forms, the story that we're telling in the ring or on the TV show or in the movie is written and designed to convey that emotion. And if it's done well, it's successful and people like it, they can relate and they want more. Honing into that, really is the core of entertainment, is to entertain people, to make them feel something, is one of the first epiphanies that I had about just entertainment in general. And that's something that Vince McMahon always talked about. The point of wrestling is entertainment. And he would always say, entertain my ass. I need to be entertained when you're in the ring. And using that as kind of like the constant between every form of entertainment makes it easier to transition back and forth, because once you realize that's the point of it, it's storytelling, and then the tools are different after that. Film and TV, your performances are more nuanced. You almost have to have your body and mind filled up with thoughts and emotions, but contain them so the camera can zoom in close in your face and pull what you're thinking and feeling. Wrestling is different because it's almost like theater in the round. There's an arena full of people, and what makes pro wrestling is it's this performance art. The character is a crowd, and your feelings and actions need to be bigger so they can fire the crowd up. And when I was so anyway, that's what I love about pro wrestling. It's supposed to be something that fires people up and gets people to get rowdy, yell, heckle, cheer, and boo. And that's what I did when I was a kid. So in that long, rambling answer, I guess knowing what the point of entertainment is and taking everything one day at a time is how I balance it.
Hey, Johnny, as a quick follow-up to that question, talk to us about Boone the Bounty Hunter. And I believe that's a 5-year project for you?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for asking about Boone. So I was a film major at UC Davis before I got into wrestling. And I knew that I wanted to do action movies pretty much my whole life. So when I left WWE at the end of 2011, I knew I wanted to do a movie. And I didn't know it was going to be Boone the Bounty Hunter at the time. But I wrote a movie. It was like a sci-fi action thing that I ended up just throwing away because it wasn't that good. And then I started working on Boone with a buddy of mine. And the idea of the movie, first conceptually, was that I wanted to do a movie where the action was a combo of parkour, pro wrestling, and MMA, all the stuff that I'm best at. And the character is this goofy, reluctant hero, kind of everyman type of guy with a boyish arrogance that is fun because he gets to say goofy things, but also in an endearing way so as to not alienate people. Anyway, so that was what we set out to write when we started Boone. And then it evolved and it became about Boone, a reality show bounty hunter who Boone's dudes like Kevin Sorbo and Jonathan Lipnicki for his reality TV show. And when the show was going to be canceled because of ratings, he decided to go to Mexico after a real criminal to save his show. That's the gist of the plot of the movie. But making movies is hard. I'll just put it that way. So from the time I started writing it to the time we shot it was 2.5 years, and then it took another 2 years of post-production, and then getting the distribution deal until now, where it's out on DVD everywhere, Amazon, Walmart, Dollar General, and it's on VOD, iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Xbox Video, Vudu, places like that. Took a really long time. But Boone is the movie that I've done that I'm by far the most proud of, and people that have seen it have responded really well to it. There's a lot of people that really liked it and call me up with Boone quotes, Boone Voyage, Hakuna Matata, stuff like that. And if you're on this call and you haven't seen Boone, please go out of your way to check it out. And tell everyone that is listening or reading this to go out of their way to check out Boone, because if you're a fan of pro wrestling and the things that I've done in the squared circle or six-sided circle now, you got to check out the stuff that I pulled off in Boone the Bounty Hunter.
Hey, Johnny, this is Graham Matthews, HiddenRoad.com. You've had a long and well-documented journey in getting to GFW between your work in AAA and Lucha Underground, when most fans expected you to join GFW immediately following your WWE departure back in 2011. Do you think now is a better time for you to come into the company as opposed to 6 years ago, considering how much you've grown as a performer?
Yeah, I couldn't be happier with the way that it worked out. And the reason I didn't come right away was because when I left WWE, it wasn't like I left on bad terms. I was planning on just taking a year off, and I left because I wanted to do movies and to make that movie that ended up taking a lot longer than I thought. So I talked to Lagana, Taz, Dixie, and Big John Gabor several times back then, and it just never really happened because I didn't want to take myself out of Los Angeles. Then, well, like you said, well-documented journey, all that stuff happened. And I ended up in a situation where I was working for Lucha Underground, working for AAA, and there's an opportunity to start having all these promotions work together, and I could represent all three of these companies at the same time and still have enough control of my time to write movies, to audition, to do fun shorts and things, which is ultimately all I wanted with, well, as with WWE, was a little bit more creative autonomy. So for me personally, this is the perfect time. And I would say that's first. And then secondary, for me professionally, I'm the best I've ever been physically in the ring and also psychologically when it comes to understanding what a pro wrestler is supposed to do, basically, how to have good matches, what your job is when you're in the ring.
What's up, Johnny? This is Ryan Fisher from Total Wrestling Magazine. Last week, I was talking to Eli Drake, and you made your debut in the match and when he won the GFW Global title, and he said that you strike him as a guy who's more about style than substance. Like, I would want to get your opinion on that comment.
Oh, man. It's like the pot calling the kettle black, right? I would say Eli Drake is definitely more style than substance. Unfortunately for him, though, his style is kind of crap, too. As far as me going like more style than substance, I mean, maybe he's confusing hard work for style over substance because, in my opinion, part of the job of a professional wrestler is to evolve mentally, emotionally, physically. And at the end of my WWE run, I started integrating a lot of my pro wrestling moveset. And if that's what he's referring to, then he's sorely mistaken, because by me spending hours in parkour gyms and gymnastic centers for the past couple of years, hours a couple days a week, to maintain my physical ability and improve my physical ability, that's not style over substance. That's what pro wrestlers should be doing, and that's what I've done. And he's spending all that time lifting weights like a meathead at LA Fitness, training like Dorian Yates, and as a result, his training mentality is stuck about 20 years in the past. And when we wrestle, I think it's going to be obvious the difference between those two training philosophies, which one is more applicable to modern-day professional wrestling.
Hi, this is Jeremy Walker from Real Sport. Wanted to follow up on the questions about your film and TV career so far, Johnny. Wanted to know what it was like working with Jason David Frank and others on Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe.
I'm really excited for Ninjak vs. the Valiant Universe. The trailer, I believe, is going to be released this week. Jason David Frank, Derek Saylor, Kevin Porter, Mike Rowe from Arrow, Sierra Foster. The cast of this digital series, in my mind, is a 10 out of 10. Everybody is uniquely them and perfect fits for their own specific characters. Outside of that, I feel like I've become legitimate bros with just David Frank and Derek and Mike, which is one of my favorite things about working in a creative industry. It's because when you're working together with someone creatively, really cut a lot of the superficial shit quickly, because you two have to relate as your characters, sometimes in really highly emotional circumstances. So basically, it's been great. I'm a big fan of Jason David Frank. He's super talented, and the rest of the cast is too. That goes for Josh, Dinesh, the guys that are own and run Valiant, as well as Aaron and Sean, the director and sound editor for Bat in the Sun. I think when that trailer drops, people's minds are going to be blown.
Hello, John. This is Alan Levine from the Israeli wrestling community, and it's a real honor talking to you. I don't know if you know, but you're huge here in Israel, and friends with Went Nets when you debuted in GFW. Now, you've been wrestling for 15 years. What do you think about the modern wrestling style?
That's a good question, because to me, that's I can talk forever about that. I think that's one of the coolest things about modern day wrestling is the evolution of the pacing and the moves and the current state of independent wrestling. I really had to update my style and thinking. So when I first started, and I was learning from guys like Jim Cornette, who's now at Impact, which is super funny and cool, and Al Snow, Danny Davis, even and then getting up on the road with Finley and Arn and Vince, and a lot of the psychology of what worked even when I started back then in 2003, 4, 5, 6 is now, if you did what I do every weekend on independent wrestling shows, this weekend Mundo Lucha in Milwaukee, and in that show in New York, I think we would get chewed out by by anyone in the business who saw the match if it was that match 15 years ago. Now, is that a good or a bad thing? I don't know. It's hard to decide whether it's a good or a bad thing, but I think ultimately, because wrestling is entertainment and it exists for the fans that come to see, that seems to be the driving force of why wrestling has evolved, because it's what fans respond to. It's what fans make the most noise for. So, being a part of the wrestling industry is really about making sure you stay relevant, making sure the stuff that you're doing is stuff that fans want to see now and not 10 years ago. And that's one of the things that I'm excited about being at GFW for, is applying all my wrestling philosophy and knowledge and things that I've picked up wrestling from places like AAW to Defy to Wrestle Circus and Lucha Underground and AAA and all the other places all over the world to GFW. And I think the melting pot of what I bring to the table versus what's there and what everyone else brings to the table is the heart of wrestling. Is what makes it interesting. And you nailed it. You're right. Wrestling is evolving, which is why a lot of times I refer to 2017 as Mundo 17, or I guess in this case, Impact 17.
Hi, Johnny. It's Ryan from thegorillaposition.com. Just wanted to ask you, you mentioned your background in film in college, and of course we know about your experience in Hollywood. Is there any chance that you'd want to get in production or creative in the wrestling business by chance? Thanks.
I've thought about it. I've thought about that several times. And at some point, conceivably, yes. Because I like variety, though, currently it feels like it's a lot of the stuff that I think of when I'm not wrestling is for some reason I think of like feature films. They're usually action comedies, and instead of trying to fight that instinct, usually I just write what I'm thinking of, especially because I enjoy it. I think if you don't enjoy writing, it comes out when you're reading someone's stuff back. Also, anybody in the wrestling industry is involved somewhat in creative. I'm not necessarily in the creative department on any of the shows that I'm working for currently, but if I have ideas, I can talk to Scott Zamore or Sanjay or Big or Jeremy Borash. I can present ideas to them and we can discuss. Same thing with Lucha Underground, same thing with AAA. And ultimately, not everyone is in the same situation that I'm in, where they can pick up the phone and make a call and have the creative department pick up. But most people are, because even if you can't call Sanjay at home at midnight, all those people that I just mentioned are looking for new ideas and looking for good ideas. So anybody that's on the roster that has anything good will be heard. Anyway, so that's a long way of saying wrestlers are usually already in the creative department, whether they know it or not.
Jim Barcelona, MiamiHero.com. Do you think Hollywood's attitude toward pro wrestlers has changed over the years because of the success of someone like The Rock in the industry?
Definitely. I think wrestling right now is hot. Like, wrestling is a hot industry worldwide right now. And, yeah, that's partly due to The Rock. I mean, he was on the cover of GQ, right? The highest paid, or Forbes, highest paid actor in Hollywood. But not only that, like, one of the most prolific actor-producers alive today. That dude is everywhere. He busts his ass. And because of that, he's got the respect of the entertainment community as well as the professional wrestling community, and broken into just pop culture in general. So because he's hot, I mean, you got Dave Bautista, who's become an A-list actor with the stuff that he's done in Guardians, which is really, for me, was really cool to watch because it reminded me of Dave. He's a big teddy bear. He's a super nice guy. And I think that came out in his performance when he was doing Drax. John Cena stepped up his game also. He killed it so hard in Trainwreck that now he's getting more and more stuff. And all of those things. And Stone Cold Steve Austin is another one. I mean, he's a part of pop culture. He's hosting an EP of 3 different TV shows now, I think. And really all that does is it does open doors for guys like me. And all I need is a little hole for me to kick the door open wide, because I'm hungry right now to get further into that world.
Hello there, it's Francis from Evening Pop. The main question I asked you, you've come into GFW and round heading the corner is Bound for Glory. Hopefully you'll be going there, maybe taking on the Global Force Global Champion, maybe against Eli Drake. But will you be defending maybe some of the other titles that you've won at Bound for Glory if you actually got that far?
Oh yeah, I'd put anything on the line against Eli Drake. When we get there, if I'm still campeon of AAA, I'll put all those things on the line. I'm that confident that I would leave Bound for Glory with Eli's title if we have the match, if I still have my titles. I'm really excited for Bound for Glory, though, man. This is one of the pay-per-views that's the 10 poles of Impact, and I remember watching it for the past 10 years ago. It's going to be a really cool thing to be a part of.
Johnny, what's it like going through the airports with 3 championship belts?
It's a pain in the ass. I'll be honest, it sucks because I'm old school. I always bring 2 bags, gear bag that you never check. So that's got the titles and gear just in case of an emergency, in case they lose your bag, you can still perform. But they always pull all 3 titles out, especially if you have 3. If you have 1, sometimes you can sneak through. 3 titles in your bag, though, they pull all 3 out usually, and like all the TSA people come over, and then half the time they want pictures, and it turns into a fiasco.
Hi, this is James with Steel Chair Magazine once again. Is there a dream match that you would want to take part in? Any wrestler that's not necessarily in GFW, or just anyone out there that you'd want to face?
Any wrestler, anywhere. Man, it'd be awesome to wrestle Okada. I've been a big fan of the stuff that's been going on with New Japan. Daniel Bryan would be another dream match. A lot of some of the WWE guys right now, I put Bobby Lashley on the dream match list, just because it's been fascinating to see how well he's done in both MMA and pro wrestling. A true 2-sport athlete, and it's very rare. He's also a good friend of mine. Let's see. That's a tough question because I feel like there's too many dream matches. Macho Man was always my dream match growing up, a singles match against HBK. But some of these I think are never going to happen. The ones with the potential are the first ones that I'd mentioned.
Hey, Johnny. Graham Romita with InRemote.com again. Similar to yourself, your former tag team partner, The Miz, has actually reinvented himself in a major way in recent years, and is arguably better now than he was before. What have been your thoughts on his recent resurgence in the WWE? Have you kept in contact with him at all as well?
Oh, yeah. We text back and forth all the time. every time my IMDb meter is higher than his, I can snap it and send it over to him and tell him that Boone the Bounty Hunter is better than Marine. He's been killing it, and I think it really comes down to The Miz is always emphatically himself. He never changed who he was. He's always, whether in the ring or in real life, kind of this loud, abrasive, confident guy. And he's also a really good friend and a loyal friend, and in smaller groups, really fun to hang out with. But because he's got that quality that's remained consistent, he knows who he is in the ring and out of the ring. And I think that confident core of Mike Zanin is what's propelled him to the next level of success with wrestling. It's been really cool to see. I'd put him on the dream match list also. It'd be cool to, I don't know if it'd be more fun to tag with him or kick his ass, but either one would be interesting.
Hi, Johnny. It's Ryan from Total Wrestling again. I started asking you, talking about your dream matches, who your idols were, both in the wrestling business and in the film and TV business.
Man, so wrestling idol is hard to pick, but Macho Man, HBK, Mr. Perfect, and Rock. Film and TV, the first guys that I got really sucked into when I was a kid, but I feel like made me into the man that I am today, are Jet Li, Jackie Chan, Jean-Claude Van Damme, our 80s action heroes, Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China. Those movies were the kind of movies that I watched over and over again when I was a kid and loved them. I could quote them line for line, and is why I became enamored with filmmaking and professional wrestling. It's what I grew up on. I grew up on action movies and pro wrestling.
Hi, this is Alon from the Israeli wrestling community again. Some of your co-workers and friends, such as Chris Masters, have been wrestling in Israel. What have you heard about the Israeli wrestling scene? And do you think there's any chance of you coming to wrestle in Israel along with GFW?
Chris said that he absolutely loved it over there, and was telling stories about how awesome it was in Israel. And for me, I've just never been hit up by, I don't know who the promoter is in Israel, but if you listen to this, yeah, hit me up. I'd definitely like to make an impact in Israel.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Jeremy Walker from Real Sport again. Johnny, do you still keep in contact with Matt Capitelli, and how's he doing these days, if you do?
Did you see what happened with him recently? They found some more cancerous cells in his brain, and he's going to have to go back to treatments, which sucks. I was going to say I saw him not too long ago, but I guess it was a few months back now. I did a show in Louisville at OVW, and him and I hung out and caught up for a couple of days. It was awesome, actually. We talked about Tough Enough and how crazy it was that we both moved to Louisville together and roommates back then, and that was before he'd relapsed or they noticed anything. And I said this about Matt Capitelli, like he to this day is one of the most positive people I've ever met, and his run of injuries and cancer and bad luck has been harder than just about anyone I know, and he's always remained positive. And he's actually somebody that I think about when I think I'm having a hard time or a shit day. I think about things that he's dealt with and how positive he's remained throughout everything. But yeah, I talk to him still. I talk to him, I'd say at least once a month, sometimes more.
Hello there, it's Francis from Ring Pop again. The main thing I want to ask you, how fun it is working with your other half working in GFW at the moment?
Oh, you're talking about Taya Valkyrie?
Yeah.
She is so excited to be working with GFW, and I have loved the entrance, her music. You guys need to tune in Thursday to see her debut, I believe. She's been loving it and has been really happy. And you know what they say, when your girl is happy, you're happy. And so that's part of.
Hi, John. It's Ryan from Total Wrestling again. I thought I'd pick up on. There were rumors last year of perhaps a return to the WWE around the time of the brand split, and obviously that didn't happen. But you say you leave on good terms. Is there a chance you could perhaps go back there one day?
It's hard to say because I believe so, but it's ultimately not completely up to me. I will though say that I'm extremely happy right now with my life and my career, with Lucha, with AAA, and I don't even have enough time to wrestle all the shows that those companies have. And I also am afforded the opportunity, like I mentioned earlier, to pursue my own projects, to make Boone the Bounty Hunter basically, and to get further into the entertainment industry. So as far as like a comeback to WWE, there are a ton of people on the roster that I haven't had the chance to work with. Love to work circles around Rollins and Reigns, have matches with the Miz, Finn Balor, Lesnar, Samoa Joe. Like all those are exciting matchups and would be great for me. But sometimes I sit back and think, like, what's to say that those matches couldn't necessarily happen in GFW or Lucha Underground, because the business changes so quickly. So as far as that goes, sure, it's possible, but I'm really happy with where I'm at right now.
Hey, Johnny, Graham Matthews from PinRoad.com again. Between Johnny Nitro, John Morrison, and Johnny Mundo, you've obviously had a lot of names in wrestling. And this might be a simple question, but how did the Johnny Impact ring name come about?
I think it came up as a little bit of a joke first, because we were thinking about, all right, well, Mundo is a Lucha Underground name, and we wanted to do something different. So we started like brainstorming names, and I forget who said Johnny Impact first, but it was like kind of like Johnny Impact. And then everyone thought about it for an extra couple of seconds. We're like, you know, that could work. It's a little bit cheesy and on the nose, but it's also fun, and wrestling should be fun first and foremost. And I've actually really grown to like it.
Hey, this is Riju from Sportskida. My question is that having worked with Alberto El Patron, a man who's always at the center of controversy, what's your impression of him as a performer and as a human being?
Center of controversy is a good way to describe Alberto. I've had a lot of matches with him, and I've always been impressed with him in the ring. The season finale of Lucha Underground Season 1 was me and him. I had a great singles match with him in Lucha Underground. I worked with him a handful of times when we were working together with WWE. Out of the ring, the Alberto that I know and hang out with is raising hell and having a good time hanging out at bars and clubs, and I've had a lot of really good times with Alberto. And as far as the controversy and the stuff that he's dealing with, for specifics on that, you'd have to talk to him. But from my standpoint, I've always had a really good time with that guy. He's ridiculous. He's super fun, though.
Hey, Johnny, Ryan from thegorillaposition.com. You wrestled on some of the biggest stages in the world, and at the same time, you mentioned you've kind of been on a 6-year journey since. So if you win the title to close Bound for Glory and you're hoisting the belt, would you say things have come full circle, and how are you going to feel if that happens? Thanks. Have a great day.
Well, that's an easy way to answer it, since you just threw the answer in the question. Yeah, things have come full circle, or full hexagon, so to speak. Winning if I can beat Eli Drake and win the title at Bound for Glory, it would be one of the highest honors that I've achieved in my career, and I hope that match happens. I hope that's the case, because I would like nothing better than to take GFW and make it into something great that everybody loves. And I feel like it's there now, but I want the chance to take the GFW ball and run into the end zone of wrestling eternity with it, spike it, and then show everybody what I think the best pro wrestling in the world could be and is. And the GFW roster right now has the talent to do that. And if you think about the talent rosters of GFW, Lucha Underground, AAA, and Noah, I think that is the biggest and most interesting assortment of companies and wrestlers in the world. And ultimately, interesting and entertaining is what people watch for. So any other company in the world not involved with what we're doing and what I'm doing had better watch their ass.
Give us a final thought as we wrap it up for today.
Wrestling is about entertainment, and the opportunity to entertain people at GFW, the fans that are watching on Pop TV and worldwide, is an honor. It's always an honor to get into the ring. And anyone that's listening to this, I hope you'll watch Lucha Underground on Wednesday nights and Impact Wrestling on Pop TV on Thursday nights. Follow me on Twitter at The Real Morrison. Follow me on Instagram at John Hennigan. Check out my Facebook, John Morrison. Go out of your way to watch Boone the Bounty Hunter. And also, please rate and review Boone on IMDb, Amazon, iTunes, Rotten Tomatoes, and all the other ones too. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to do things that have never been done before in wrestling. To find out what I'm talking about, make sure to tune into those shows.
Johnny, thank you so much, and I again thank everybody from the media who's called in today. And please don't forget, next week we will have a big one. We're going to talk GFW Creative with the three guys that are running it right now: Big John, Scott D'Amore, and Sanjay Dutt. So stay tuned for that next week here on the GFW Media Teleconference.
Thanks for downloading today's episode. If you're new around here and like what you've heard, hit that like button and slap the subscribe one too. Leave me a comment and tell me what you thought, and I'll see all of you next time.